Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The day began like any other. Morning coffee, the usual rush to get out the door, the bills waiting on the table to be sorted. As I sifted through the envelopes, a sleek white one caught my eye, marked with my wife's name, Emily. Absent-mindedly, I tore it open, assuming it was another routine bill or perhaps a letter from her workplace. What I saw inside, however, shattered that assumption. The letter was handwritten, a rarity these days. But it wasn't the writing that made my heart stop, it was the content. Darling, you are even more incredible at night than you are during the day. Your faithful servant. For a moment, the words didn't register. My brain refused to process them. I read it again, slower this time, feeling my pulse rise with every syllable. The paper shook in my hands, the bold ink mocking me with its intimacy. Darling. Faithful servant. This couldn't be real. My eyes darted to the signature, but it was just a simple initial, A. I sat there, frozen, as if time itself had paused. Everything felt unreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Emily and I had been together for over a decade, and despite the typical ups and downs, I never doubted her loyalty. Yet, this letter made everything I believed crumble in an instant. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I also knew I needed more information. The letter felt strange, like it belonged to another world, something I'd never associated with Emily. My mind buzzed with questions. Who was A? How long had this been going on? And why now? Why this brazen letter, carelessly sent to our home? It was reckless, and yet, that recklessness gave me an opening. I stuffed the letter back into the envelope, trying to calm my racing heart, already formulating a plan. Later that night, I pretended everything was fine. We had dinner like usual, Emily laughing at some trivial story from her day while I pushed food around my plate. Every time I glanced at her, my stomach churned. How could she act so normal when she was hiding something so vile? But it wasn't just dinner. The following days turned into an eerie game of hide-and-seek. I would leave for work in the morning, wondering what she was up to while I was gone. I became obsessed with every detail, her phone calls, her subtle glances, even the clothes she wore. It all seemed different now, even though I couldn't pinpoint anything specific. It wasn't until a week later that I finally caught her in the act. I came home early, much earlier than usual. The house was unusually quiet, too quiet for Emily, who normally had the TV on or music playing in the background. I walked through the front door, cautiously stepping inside as if entering enemy territory. Something felt off, like the air had grown thick with tension. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. The sound that reached my ears next confirmed my worst fears. It was a muffled voice, low and pleading. I followed the noise, creeping toward the back of the house. The noise grew louder as I neared the bedroom, but something about it was wrong. It wasn't Emily's voice. It was deeper, male, and filled with desperation. The door was slightly ajar. My heart raced as I pushed it open, the creak of the hinges echoing in the quiet hallway. And there they were. Emily stood in the center of the room, whip in hand, her face twisted in concentration. Before her, tied to the radiator with his hands behind his back, was a man I'd never seen before. He was shirtless, his body bruised and welted, clearly from Emily's handiwork. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wife, my Emily, stood over him like some kind of dominatrix, the whip poised for another strike. The man's face was contorted in both pain and something else. Was that pleasure? The room spun around me. I couldn't breathe. The letter, the secrecy, it all made sense now in the most twisted way possible. Emily wasn't just cheating on me, she was living an entirely separate life, one I'd never even imagined. What the hell is this? The words ripped from my throat before I could stop them. Emily spun around, her eyes wide with shock, but it was too late. The scene had been burned into my mind, and there was no erasing it. "Jacob," she stammered, dropping the whip like a guilty child caught in the act. "It's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like." I cut her off, my voice trembling with rage. "Who the hell is he?" The man, still tied to the radiator, looked up at me, fear flashing across his face. He was too stunned to speak, clearly at Emily's mercy. And for the first time, I realized just how deep her betrayal went. "Answer me," I yelled, the room buzzing with tension. Emily stood there, speechless, guilt etched all over her face. I stormed out of the room, my mind reeling. I needed to get out of there, to think, to breathe. But as I slammed the front door behind me, one thing became painfully clear: Emily's betrayal wasn't something I could forgive. It was too deep, too perverse, and it had shattered everything we'd built together. Revenge. The word slithered into my thoughts like a snake. I couldn't just walk away from this without making her pay. She needed to feel the same humiliation, the same pain. I would ruin her, just like she ruined me. I drove aimlessly for hours, my mind running wild with plans, scenarios, ways to make her suffer. But one thing was certain: this was the beginning of the end. I would make sure of that. The plot was only just beginning to unfold. This letter had ignited something inside me, something dark and unforgiving. As I looked at the empty road ahead, I knew the next steps I'd take would change everything. Emily's life, as she knew it, was over. She just didn't know it yet. The next morning, the house feels colder, emptier, despite Emily sitting right across the kitchen table from me, pretending to eat breakfast. Her eyes flicker up to meet mine now and again, but she's unusually quiet. Gone is the laughter, the small talk about our plans for the day. It's as if she knows what's coming but isn't sure how or when it will hit. The image of her standing in the bedroom with that whip, looming over the man tied to our radiator, keeps replaying in my head like a sick loop. I haven't said anything about it yet. I'm holding on to my cards, letting the silence do the damage for now. Emily clears her throat, pushing her plate away. "I've been thinking," she says carefully, her voice a little too even. "Maybe we should take a trip. Get away for a while." A trip. She thinks a getaway will patch this up, that some distance will make me forget what I saw. It's almost laughable. "Sure," I say, forcing a smile. "Where were you thinking?" Her eyes brighten just a little, sensing an opening. "I don't know, somewhere warm. Maybe the coast. Just you and me." I nod, sipping my coffee slowly, holding her gaze. She's testing me, waiting to see if I'll take the bait. But inside, I'm already planning my next move. There's no fixing this. This isn't something a vacation can mend. Her betrayal cuts too deep, and I need to know just how far it goes. "Sounds good," I say, letting the silence settle between us. "But first, we need to talk about what happened yesterday." Emily freezes, her fork clattering onto the plate. The color drains from her face as she stares at me, wide-eyed, like a deer caught in headlights. She knows exactly what I'm referring to. "Jacob," she starts, but I cut her off. "I saw everything, Emily. You, him, the whip. Don't try to explain it away." Her lips tremble, her hands curling into fists on the table. "It's not what you think." I slam my hand down on the table, the plates rattling from the force. "Not what I think. I came home to find my wife beating some stranger tied up in our bedroom. What am I supposed to think, Emily?" She flinches at my tone, her eyes welling with tears, but I don't feel any sympathy. Not after what I saw. Not after the letter, the lies. "Who is he?" I demand. "How long has this been going on?" Emily stares at the floor, her shoulders hunched in defeat. It's complicated. Complicated? That's all you've got. She bites her lip, trying to find the words, but nothing she says can erase the image burned into my mind. Nothing can undo the betrayal. We've been seeing each other for a few months, she admits quietly, barely above a whisper. But it's not what you think. It's not love. It's... What, Emily? I cut her off, my voice rising. Some sick game you play behind my back. Her face crumples, but I don't let up. I need answers. I need her to feel the weight of her lies, the depth of her betrayal. I never wanted to hurt you, she says, her voice cracking. It just happened. He's not. He's not what? Not your lover. Not your faithful servant. I throw the words from the letter back at her, watching her flinch at the sound of them. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? She starts to cry, but the sight of her tears does nothing to soften the rage boiling inside me. Her tears mean nothing now. They're just another tool in her arsenal, another way to manipulate the situation, to make me feel guilty for confronting her. But I'm done feeling guilty. I'm done being the fool. I stand up, pushing my chair back with a screech. This isn't just about him. This is about you, about us. You lied to me, Emily. You betrayed everything we had. Her sobs grow louder, but I don't care. I'm past caring. I need some time to think, I say coldly. I can't even look at you right now. I storm out of the kitchen, the door slamming behind me. The sound of her crying fades as I leave the house, my mind a whirlwind of anger, confusion, and betrayal. I don't know where I'm going, but I need to be anywhere but here. I need space to figure out what comes next. I drive aimlessly for hours, the city passing by in a blur. My hands grip the steering wheel tightly as thoughts of revenge swirl in my mind. Emily has no idea what's coming. She's about to see the same pain, the same humiliation she inflicted on me. I'll make sure of it. After a while, I park at a small coffee shop, my head still buzzing with the confrontation from earlier. I sit there in the car, staring at the dashboard, trying to make sense of what happened. How did things get this bad? Was I blind all along, or was Emily just that good at hiding the truth? As I sit there, my phone buzzes in my pocket. It's a message from Emily. I'm sorry, Jacob. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Please come home so we can talk. I delete the message without replying. There's nothing more to talk about. Talking won't change what she did. Talking won't erase the fact that she chose to destroy everything we built together. But as I sit there, something clicks. Revenge. That's what this needs to be about. Not just leaving her, not just walking away. She needs to feel what I felt. She needs to experience the same betrayal, the same gut-wrenching pain. But I won't just confront her with it. I'll plan. I'll wait. And when she least expects it, I'll strike. When I finally return home, it's late. The house is dark, and Emily is nowhere to be seen. I climb the stairs quietly, stopping outside our bedroom door. I hear her soft sobs on the other side, muffled by the pillow she's crying into. The sight doesn't move me, not anymore. I step back, retreating to the guest room down the hall. As I lay there in the unfamiliar bed, my mind races with possibilities. Emily thinks this is over, that she can just apologize and we'll move past it. But she has no idea what I have in store for her. Tomorrow, I'll start setting my plan in motion. I'll collect the evidence, make sure every detail is in place. I'll take her down piece by piece, just like she took apart our marriage with her lies. She thinks she's in control, but I'm the one holding the cards now. The darkness of the room seems to close in around me, but instead of fear, I feel something else, determination. Emily won't know what hit her. The next few days pass in a haze of carefully controlled silence. Emily tries to bridge the growing chasm between us with small gestures, cooking my favorite meals, leaving notes with apologetic words, even brushing her hand against mine when we pass each other in the hallway. But it's too late for her attempts at reconciliation. I've already decided my course of action. I'm polite but distant, playing the role of the wounded husband. She has no idea that while she's trying to mend things, I'm silently plotting her downfall. My anger simmers beneath the surface, but I keep it hidden, knowing the right moment to strike will come soon enough. It starts with small things. I begin leaving the house earlier than usual, giving her space, allowing her to think I'm retreating into myself. In reality, I'm gathering evidence. I go through her emails when she's not looking, searching for more clues about this. Nothing turns up at first, but I'm patient. I know her secret life has to be there, hidden away in some corner of her digital world. One morning, as I sit in the living room with a cup of coffee, Emily's phone buzzes on the counter. She's still upstairs getting ready for work, so I casually pick it up, glancing at the screen. It's a message from A. Can we meet tonight? Same place as before. I stare at the screen, feeling the familiar surge of anger rising in my chest. This is it. The confirmation I need. Whoever this guy is, he's still in the picture, still lurking in the shadows. I need to figure out who he is, where they meet, and then I'll make sure neither of them ever forget the consequences of crossing me. I quickly put the phone back in its place and head to the kitchen. Emily comes downstairs a few minutes later, her hair still wet from the shower. She gives me a cautious smile, but I can see the tension in her eyes. She knows something's off, but she doesn't dare ask. Heading out early today? She asks, her voice soft, as if trying to gauge my mood. Yeah, I reply, not looking at her. Busy day at work. She hesitates for a moment, as if she wants to say something more, but instead, she just nods and grabs her purse. As she heads for the door, I stop her. Emily. She freezes, turning back to face me. I've been thinking, I say slowly, choosing my words carefully. Maybe you're right. Maybe we do need to get away for a bit. Clear our heads. Her face lights up with hope. You mean it? Yeah. I force a smile, one that doesn't quite reach my eyes. Let's talk about it tonight. I'll pick up dinner on my way home. She nods eagerly, relief flooding her features. That sounds perfect. As soon as she's gone, I spring into action. My mind is buzzing with adrenaline, my heart racing as I put the pieces of my plan into place. First, I check her phone, making sure the message from A is still there. I memorize the number and then, using one of the many apps I've downloaded in the past week, trace it back to its owner. His name is Aaron, and he works at a law firm downtown. The name doesn't ring any bells, but it doesn't matter. He's just another cog in the machine of Emily's deceit. That evening, I leave work early, just like I told Emily I would. But instead of picking up dinner, I drive straight to the location Aaron and Emily meet. It's a small, dimly lit hotel on the outskirts of town, the kind of place people go when they want to avoid being seen. I park a few blocks away and walk the rest of the distance, my hood pulled low over my face, my heart pounding with anticipation. I spot Aaron first, standing outside the hotel, glancing around nervously. He's tall, with dark hair and sharp features, a far cry from the man I expected. He checks his watch, then looks down the street, waiting for Emily to arrive. I slip into a nearby alley, watching from the shadows. My blood boils as I see her car pull up moments later. She gets out, looking around with the same cautious gaze, her face tense with worry. She doesn't see me. She doesn't know I'm watching. Aaron walks over to her, and they exchange a few words. I can't hear what they're saying, but it doesn't matter. The way they look at each other says it all. They disappear into the hotel together, and I wait, letting my anger simmer, my plan taking shape. When I return home later that night, Emily is already there, sitting on the couch with a glass of wine in her hand. She looks up as I enter, her eyes searching mine for any sign of what I might know. "How was work?" she asks, her voice tight. "Fine," I reply casually, setting down the takeout I picked up on the way home to maintain the illusion. "I'm glad we can do this tonight. Talk." She nods, but her smile doesn't reach her eyes. I can tell she's distracted, probably thinking about her little rendezvous with Aaron earlier. I let the silence stretch between us for a moment before speaking again. "I've been thinking about us," I say slowly, sitting down across from her. "About everything that's happened." Emily tenses, her grip tightening on the wineglass. "I've made some mistakes," I continue, keeping my voice calm, measured. "But I'm willing to work through them. If you are." Her face softens slightly, the hope flickering in her eyes again. She has no idea I'm playing her, that this is all part of the plan. "I'm so glad to hear that," she says, her voice shaky. "I've missed you, Jacob. I want to fix this. I really do." I nod, leaning back in my chair. "Good. Because I think we need to be honest with each other, Emily. Completely honest." She freezes, her eyes widening. She knows where this is going. "I know about Aaron," I say quietly, watching her reaction. Her face drains of color, the wineglass slipping from her hand and shattering on the floor. She stares at me, speechless, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "I saw you today," I continue, my voice cold. "At the hotel. I know everything." "Jacob, please," she starts, but I cut her off. "No. You don't get to explain this away, Emily. You don't get to lie to me anymore." Tears well up in her eyes, but I don't care. She brought this on herself. "I'm done with the lies," I say, standing up. "I'm done with all of it." She's crying now, her hands trembling as she tries to reach for me, but I step back, shaking my head. "We're over, Emily. You and me. You made your choice. Please, Jacob, we can fix this," she pleads, but I'm already walking toward the door, grabbing my keys. "You'll see just how broken this is soon enough," I say, without turning around. The door slams behind me as I leave her standing there, sobbing on the floor. I feel no remorse. Only the cold satisfaction of knowing my revenge is just beginning. The next few days, I stay quiet, watching, waiting. Emily walks around the house like she's trapped in a nightmare, trying to pretend that everything might still be salvageable. She leaves me notes, sends me texts, even tries to talk when she gets home from work. I stay silent, giving her nothing. She doesn't know what's coming, but she feels the tension, the weight of something terrible lurking just out of sight. I gather the final pieces of my plan carefully, making sure not to leave any trace. My revenge must be perfect, precise. Emily destroyed us with her lies, but now, I will take everything from her. And Aaron, well, he'll get what's coming too. I begin by visiting Aaron's office late one night, slipping in through the back door after hours. I've been studying his schedule, his habits, learning when he's most vulnerable. As expected, he's working late, alone in his office. The perfect opportunity. I've done my research. He's a senior associate at the law firm, a man with a reputation to protect, a man who hides his darkest desires behind a polished exterior. His affair with Emily. A secret that would ruin him professionally and personally if it ever got out. I wait in the shadows for him to finish up, my hands twitching with anticipation. Finally, he gathers his things, shuts off his computer, and heads out the door. He doesn't see me slip into his office, doesn't realize I'm about to dismantle his entire life. Inside, I head straight for his computer. It takes only minutes to get past the basic security measures. I've prepared for this. I hack into his email account, forwarding all of his explicit emails to a collection of carefully selected contacts, his boss, his colleagues, even a few of his most important clients. Attached to each message is a photograph I'd taken of him and Emily entering the hotel together. The final blow is a neatly worded anonymous tip to the ethics committee at his law firm, detailing his inappropriate relationship with a married client. By the time the morning comes, his career will be in ruins, his carefully crafted life destroyed. And the best part? He'll have no idea who did it. When I return home later that night, Emily is waiting for me in the living room, her face pale and gaunt. She looks like she hasn't slept in days, and maybe she hasn't. I can tell by the look in her eyes that she knows something is coming, but she has no idea just how bad it's going to get. "We need to talk," she says, her voice trembling. "Do we?" I ask, keeping my tone cold, detached. "Yes, Jacob, we do. Please, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. We can." "You don't get it, do you, Emily?" I cut her off, stepping closer. "There's no fixing this. You crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. You think you can just apologize and everything will go back to normal." She bites her lip, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It just... I don't know how it got so out of control." "Out of control?" I laugh bitterly. "You were sneaking around behind my back, sleeping with another man in our bed, and beating him with a whip. That's not out of control, Emily, that's betrayal." She tries to speak, but I don't give her the chance. "Did you know I met Aaron?" I say, watching her face twist in confusion. "I paid him a visit. In fact, I've been paying a lot of attention to him lately." Her eyes widen, panic flashing across her face. "What did you do?" I smile, leaning in closer. "You'll find out soon enough." She stands up, backing away from me. "Jacob, please, whatever you're planning, don't do it. I'm begging you." I step forward, my voice low and menacing. "It's too late for that." The next morning, it all begins to unravel. I'm sitting in the kitchen, casually sipping my coffee, when Emily bursts through the front door, her phone in her hand, panic written all over her face. "What did you do, Jacob?" she screams, her voice shrill with fear. I raise an eyebrow, feigning ignorance. "What are you talking about?" She shoves the phone in my face. It's a text message from Aaron, frantic and desperate. "They know. My boss got the emails. My clients are pulling out. What the hell did you do? You need to fix this, Emily. Now." I shrug, setting down my coffee. "Sounds like Aaron's having a rough day." Her face pales as she stares at me, realization dawning. "You did this. You destroyed him." I stand up slowly, walking toward her. "He destroyed himself, Emily. Just like you did." Her hands tremble as she tries to form a response, but I'm not done. I've been waiting for this moment, savoring the way her world is crumbling around her, just like mine did. "And that's not all," I say, my voice cold. "Check your bank account." Her eyes widen, and she fumbles with her phone, quickly logging into her account. I see the shock on her face when she realizes what I've done. You took everything," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "That's right," I reply calmly. "Every last cent. I transferred it all to a separate account. You have nothing now." Tears stream down her face as she collapses onto the couch, staring at me with a mixture of disbelief and terror. "Why? Why would you do this?" "Because you deserve it," I say, my voice like ice. You thought you could betray me, destroy our life together, and get away with it. No, Emily. You're going to feel the same pain I felt. She sobs, clutching her head in her hands, but I feel no sympathy. This is the endgame, and she's lost. And one more thing, I add, pulling out a small folder from my bag and tossing it onto the coffee table. She looks up, her tear-streaked face filled with confusion. What is that? She asks, her voice breaking. Divorce papers, I reply simply. Already signed on my end. I suggest you do the same. She stares at the papers, her hands shaking as she picks them up. You can't be serious. After everything we've been through. I'm dead serious, Emily. We're done. You made your choice, and now you're going to live with the consequences. I turn and walk toward the door, but before I leave, I glance back at her one last time. You ruined us, Emily. Now, you have nothing left. I walk out, leaving her sobbing on the couch, knowing that her life is in tatters. The betrayal, the lies, the deception, it's all come full circle. I don't look back, and I don't feel an ounce of regret. As I step into the cool morning air, a strange sense of peace washes over me. It's done. She's gone, and I've taken everything from her, just like she took from me. There's no going back now, and for the first time in weeks, I feel free. Emily will never see me again. And that's exactly the way I want it. This chapter concludes the story with a brutal and calculated act of revenge. The betrayal has come full circle, and the protagonist's ruthless actions leave no room for reconciliation. The main characters part forever, consumed by their hatred of betrayal, bringing the story to a shocking and final conclusion.